بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد سبحانك لا علم إلا ما علمتنا اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم آت أنفسنا تقواها وزكيها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, like we do with every class, we're going to begin with last week's study guide. And last week, number one, what is the topic of this week's chapter? Meaning, what was the topic of last week's chapter? What was the topic of last week's chapter? What did we speak about last week? MTS. Calmness in Salah. What was it in Arabic? What was it in Arabic? الطمأنينة. جزاك الله خير. الطمأنينة في الصلاة. جيد. Who can tell me a little bit about atuma'nina, or calmness or tranquility in salah? Tell me a little about it. Brother Imtiaz. Speak a little about that word. Mm-hmm. Yes. Naam. Yes. So this tuma'nina, this calmness, this tranquility, is a rukn, it's a pillar of the salah that many people are unmindful of. And this is the pausing or reaching a state of calmness and tranquility in between movements. So when we go from standing to ruku', we don't go right back up to standing. We go on ruku' and we at least, as the ulama say, we have time to pause and at least say one dhikr. At least say one dhikr. At least remember Allah at least one time. Same in sujood as well. When you go into sujood, there's no pecking of a bird. You have to at least go into sujood and be calm. We see sometimes people make the salah, they make the sujood, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. No. There's no pecking of a bird. At least when you go in sujood, calm your muscles. At least be in sujood for at least the time to say one dhikr, one remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the tranquility and the calmness that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has commanded us with. Number two, what did the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say is the worst theft? This is a hadith that is found in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. What did the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say is the worst of theft? Khalil. Stealing from the salah. Stealing from the salah. Can you elaborate on that? Which hadith? What did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said the worst of theft is the one who steals from his salah. How does someone steal from their salah? Go ahead. Raise your voice. By not performing his ruku' and his sujood properly. Naam. Not performing his ruku' and his sujood properly, which are pillars of the prayer. Naam. This is how a person steals from the salah. The Prophet ﷺ said this is the worst of theft. Naam. Number three. Summarize the hadith of the one who performed his salah wrong. Salatul Musi. Summarize the hadith of the one who performed his salah wrong. Who remembers the hadith? It's in the beginning of the chapter. When the Prophet ﷺ told a man, go back and pray, for surely you did not pray. Who can summarize the hadith for us? Don't be afraid. Summarize the hadith of the one who performed his salah wrong. You remember Khalil? Summarize the hadith of the one who performed his salah wrong. Amjad? No, you can say it. Summarize it. So he saw the man, he didn't pray. He said, go back and pray, for surely you have not prayed. Then what did he tell him? 3 times. So he comes back to him, he said, this is the best I can do, teach me. What the Prophet ﷺ tell him, which is the point of mentioning the hadith. The positions. إِذَا قُمْتَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَكَبِّرْ. If you get up and pray, then say Allahu Akbar. ثُمَّ اقْرَأْ مَا تَيَسَّرَ مَعَكَ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ. Then read which is easy for you from the Qur'an. ثُمَّ ارْقَعْ حَتَّى تَطْمَئِنَّ رَاكِعًا. Then make ruku' until you have reached a state of tranquility in the position of ruku', which is bowing. ثُمَّ ارْفَعْ حَتَّى تَعْتَدِلَ قَائِمًا. Then raise yourself back up until you are straight. ثُمَّ اسْجُدْ حَتَّى تَطْمَئِنَّ سَاجِدًا. Then make sujood until you are in a state of tranquility. This is the point of mentioning the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ is commanding him. He made his salah wrong. Now he's teaching him the correct way to make salah. When you make ruku', make sure you don't get out of that ruku' until you reach a state of tranquility, until a state of calmness. And we already mentioned what that is. And when you make sujood, make sure you do not get out of that sujood until you reach a state of calmness. There's no quick pecking of a bird, as we mentioned. When you sit in between the 2 sajdatain, the 2 sajdas, the 2 prostrations, he said, sit until you reach a level of calmness, of tranquility. Right? There's no someone making sujood and he puts his back halfway, he doesn't come in a full, make his back straight in the sitting. No. His salah is what? Batila. That salah is not valid. That salah is not what? It's not valid. This is a pillar of the salah, tranquility, calmness in the prayer. Next question, inshallah. Yes. We're going to get to that. We're going to get that. Mention a hadith that shows the importance of one straightening his back after ruku' and sujood. Now you just said, say it again. Say it again. There's no prayer for the one who does not, say it again, straighten his spine in ruku' and sujood. So we should be straightening our spine when we make ruku', right? We should be straightening our spine when we come back from sujood. Naam, sitting straight up. Naam. Prophet says, La salata. There's no prayer for that one. So this is a serious topic. Anybody have another hadith mentioning the importance? Go ahead. It's reported in Ahmad that the Prophet ﷺ said, a hadith on Talq ibn Ali, لا ينظر الله إلى صلاة عبد لا يقيم فيها صلبه بين ركوعها وسجودها. Allah does not look at the salah of a slave who does not make his back straight between his bowing and his prostration. Allah does not look at his salah. Meaning his salah is what? Invalid. No. Number 5, mention the tafsir of Ibn Kathir for the verses from Suratul Ma'un 4 and 5. Who can speak on the tafsir of Imam Ibn Kathir? What did he mention about? What is the meaning an salatihim sahun? An salatihim sahun. He mentioned 3 different categories. What is the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, فَوَيْلُ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Woe to those people who pray, those who are careless in their prayers. What did Ibn Kathir in his tafsir mention? Are those who are sahun, those who are careless in their prayers. What are the 3 different categories that he mentioned? Number 1, tell me one. Go ahead, Khalil. Either they delay their salah. So those who delay their salah, they fall into the threat of wail, which is destruction. Woe, destruction, halak will be for those people who pray, those who are careless in their prayers. Ibn Kathir, which is of the greatest ulama of tafsir to ever walk the earth, he said the first meaning, those who delay their prayers. Number 2, they don't perform the prayer correctly. They don't come with the preconditions of the prayer. They don't come with the obligatory matters of the prayer. They don't come with the arkan of the prayer. They're not bowing down correctly. They're not making sujood correctly. So on and so forth. Number 3. Yes. And lastly, he said they neglect humility. They have no khushu' in their salah. Nor do they contemplate over it. They come to the salah, they're thinking about the store. They're thinking about their money. They're thinking about dinner. They're thinking about what they want to do. Never do they fight and strive in the prayer that, let me really focus on my salah. Let me really focus that I'm worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have no khushu', no focus in the prayer. Nor do they have any contemplation of what they're doing. They come and pray because this is just what the Muslims do. We just come and pray. But they're not focusing with that. When they bow down, I'm bowing down to Rabbul Alameen. When I make sujood, I'm prostrating to Rabbul Alameen. When I'm saying the Fatiha, when I come in the Salah, I say Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest. They're not contemplating over these things. These are the three different examples that Imam Ibn Kathir has mentioned for this ayah, or these ayat in Surah Al-Ma'un. Let's get into today's dars, inshallah. Next week, I need us to pick it up, inshallah. We got to pick it up next week, inshallah. I don't want to be giving the answers. We got to pick it up next week, inshallah. All right? Tamam. Today's chapter is An-Nahyu an at-tashabbuhi bil-haywanat fi as-salah. The prohibition of the mimicking of animals in the salah. The prohibition of the mimicking of animals in the salah. Let's begin. لقد شرف الله بني آدم وكرمهم في خلقه لهم على أحسن الهيئات وأكملها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has honored the son of Adam, and in their creation, in the best of molds and the most complete. كما قال تعالى, as Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. We have surely honored the son of Adam, and we have carried him on the land and on the sea, and we have provided for him from all of the good things, and we have preferred him and excelled him over many of the things that we have created. Then the Shaykh says, or he mentions the ayah from Surah At-Teen, and this is in Surah Al-Isra, ayah 70. This is going to be an ayah that we're going to have to memorize, inshallah. Surah Al-Isra, ayah 70. Next ayah he mentions, وَقَالَ تَعَالَى لَقَدْ خَلَقَنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Surely we have created mankind in the best of molds. Surah At-Teen, ayah 4. Meaning, and he's going to get into some tafsir from the ulama, meaning, يَمْشِ قَائِمًا مُنْتَصِبًا عَلَى رِجْلَيْهِ, that he walks standing up, standing on his two legs. He's not walking on all fours. He's not walking on all fours like a dog. He's not walking with his face or his nose to the ground, smelling, put food on the floor, he's putting his mouth to the floor where people walk. He's not doing that. He said, what does this mean, how Allah has honored him? He's walking on his two legs, standing straight up. يَأْكُلُ بِيَدَيْهِ. He eats with his hands. As I mentioned, he doesn't put his face to the floor and eat like a dog or animal. يَأْكُلُ بِيَدَيْهِ وَغَيْرُهُ مِنَ الْحَيْوَانَاتِ يَمْشِي عَلَى أَرْبَعٍ. And the other animals, they walk on all fours. وَيَأْكُلُ بِفَمِهِ. And they eat with their mouth. You ever seen a dog pick up the food and put it to his mouth? Sit up, how we do? No, they put their nose and their mouth to the floor. Look how Allah has honored mankind. وَجَعَلَ لَهُ سَمْعًا وَبَصْرًا وَفُؤَادًا. And He has given mankind hearing, He has given him sight, and He has given him hearts to understand. يَفْقَهُ بِذَلِكَ كُلِّ وَيَنْتَفِعُ بِهِ. He understands with all of that, his hearing and his sight and his heart. And the heart is really in charge as well. The heart is what? In charge of the body. The heart, what follows what? The brain or the heart? The heart is in charge. Okay? So when it's mentioned here, when Allah mentions that He's given us hearts and eyes, He's given us hearing and eyes and hearts, know that this heart right here is the king of the body. So maybe people may think that it's not as important. Allah has mentioned this 1500 years ago, that in hadith and in the Quran, that this right here is what's in control. And we're not going to get into that. يَفْقَهُ بِذَلِكَ كُلِّهِ وَيَنْتَفِعُ بِهِ. He understands with all of that, and he benefits from it. وَيُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ الْأَشْيَاءِ. And he differentiates between things. ويعرف منافعها وخواصها ومضارها في الأمور الدنيوية والدينية. He differentiates between things, and he knows the benefit of them, and he knows what they're used for, and he knows their harms in all affairs, religiously and worldly. This is what Allah has subhanahu wa ta'ala has benefited us and raised us upon the other creatures. فينبغي للعبد الله المؤمن أن يعرف هذا الشرف الذي ميزه الله به. So it's upon the slave, the believing slave, to know this honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed him and separated him from the other creation with. وأن يربأ بنفسه أن يتشبه بهذه الحيوانات التي شرفه الله عليها, and to deem himself above and to consider himself above and more honorable than the other animals. ولا سيما في الصلاة, and especially in salah, التي هي أشرف أحوال العبد. That is, this salah that is the greatest thing that a slave can do, the greatest condition that he can be in, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He should definitely raise himself and not act as the animals in the greatest thing that he can do. So he shouldn't act as an animal in any place, but he definitely shouldn't act as an animal while he's making the salah. وقد ثبت عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الأمر بمخالفة سائر الحيوانات في هيئات الصلاة. And it has been affirmed from the Prophet of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم to differ with the rest of the animals in the positions of the salah. Many hadith, and we're going to get into that. فنهى عن الالتفات كالتفات الثعلب. He has prohibited with the glancing of the fox. This is one. We're going to get into the explanation of it. He has prohibited the glancing, like the glancing and looking of a fox in salah. وَنَفْتِرَاشْ كَفْتِرَاشِ السَّبْعِ, and the resting and laying of the predatory animals. We're going to explain these things. وَإِكْعَاءٍ كَإِكْعَاءِ الْكَلْبِ, and the squatting and sitting down of a dog in the salah. وَنَقْرٍ كَنَقْرِ الْغُرَابِ, and the pecking like the pecking of a crow. وَبُرُوكٍ كَبُرُوكِ الْبَعِيرِ, and the going down like the going down of a camel. وَرَفْعِ الْأَيْدِي كَأَذْنَابِ خَيْلِ الشُّمْسِ, and the raising of the hands like wild horses. We're going to explain all of these things during the salam. فَهَدْيُ الْمُصَلِّي مُخَالِفٌ لِلْحَيْوَانَاتِ. So the musalli, the person who's praying, he should be differing with the animals. وَالصَّلَاةُ مُنَاجَاتٌ لِلَّهِ, and the salah is the intimate calling of a abd, the intimate calling of a slave for his Lord. وَصِلَةٌ بَيْنَ الْعَبْدِ وَبَيْنَ رَبِّهِ, and there's a connection between his Lord, between him and his Lord, and his master. فَيَنْبَغِي أَن تَكُونَ عَلَى أَحْسَنِ هَيْئَاتِ الْعَبْدِ وَأَفْضَلِ صِفَاتِهِ. So it is imperative, because this is the connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the connection between the slave and his Lord. It is imperative that it is done in the best of manners. It is imperative that it is done in the best way possible. Because this is the connection with us as being the slave, the creation with the Creator, then we should be doing it in the best way possible. Staying away from all prohibitions that the Prophet ﷺ has prohibited us from. Also being with the utmost focus in the salah, giving our all to it, giving our mind to it, giving our heart to it, and then following that with our body. Okay? So firstly coming into salah with our hearts being present, that I'm worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our minds being focused on what we're doing. And then our bodies following the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as he said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli," pray as you have seen me pray. Not praying how I want to, not praying lazily, and definitely not resembling animals in the salah. Now, we're going to get into some hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, authentic hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has prohibited us from the mimicking of animals in salah. We have a hadith that's reported in Ahmad, wa Abu Dawood, wa Ibn Majah, wa Nasa'i, an Abu Rahman ibn Shiblin, radiyallahu anhu, that he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Naha Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam an thalath. the Prophet of Allah ﷺ has prohibited three things. Number one, عن نقرة الغراب, on the pecking, like the pecking of a crow. When is this pecking and what are we talking about? The pecking of a crow is meaning in the time of sujood. When you make sujood, your forehead and your nose should be on the ground. Your forehead and your nose should be on the ground. And you should give yourself enough time that you at least say one dhikr. Subhana Rabbil A'la. But it's better for you to do more. 1, 3, 5, 7. It's better for you to do more. And call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقرب ما يكون العبد إلى ربه وهو ساجد. The closest that the servant is to his Lord is when he's in prostration. But you definitely should not be pecking like the pecking of a crow where you say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. No. Like this. You ever see how a crow or a bird, when it comes down to pick up something to eat, it just, and it comes right back up. This is the resemblance that the Prophet ﷺ has prohibited us from. وَعَنْ فَرْشَةِ سَبْعٍ, and the resting, like the resting of predatory animals. And this right here is widespread. And I want someone, because it's so widespread, I want someone to show us here what I'm talking about. Somebody come on sujood. Who wants to do? Khalil, go on sujood, please. Go this way. Go this way. Let everybody show you. Yes. Go on sujood. And put your elbows on the floor. All the way on the floor. All the way on the floor. Yes. And you can put them close to your knees too. Yes. This is the lying down like a predatory animal. And we see in Salah every single day there's somebody who makes sujood and his forearms are on the floor. How should our arms be when we make sujood? They should be up. They should be up. Of course you have somebody next to you, so you shouldn't be all like this. But when you pray by yourself, you should pray like this. But you definitely should not be praying with your forearms on the floor. This is prohibited. And this is what we see on a daily basis, that people pray like this. Okay? And we're going to get more into that. Number 3, وَأَنْ يُوتِنَ الرَّجُلُ الْمَكَانَ الَّذِي يُصَلِّي فِيهِ كَمَا يُوتِنُ الْبَعِيرِ. And for a man to consistently pray in the same place, like how a camel will take a specific place to rest. To rest and to relax. What does this mean? This means that a man will have a place in the masjid that he prays all his salawat. And it's known that's so-and-so spot. This is prohibited from the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now we have here, what if somebody prays in a spot a lot, but he doesn't pray the whole time, every time? Is it permissible? Huh? It's permissible. The ulama have spoke about this, that if you pray in a place a lot, it's okay. What the Prophet ﷺ is speaking about is when you take that spot, and we seen this in masajid. Yani someone, he prays there every time. That's his spot. And it's known. You better not go over there. He's going to get mad at you. Right? Allahu musta'an. But it's when he prays there every single time. Not going anywhere else. He became comfortable with this spot and that's it. Now we mentioned, the ulama said, if you pray in a place a lot of the time, it's okay. As long as you pray in different spots in the masjid. But no one should have a specific place in the masjid he prays all his salawat. Understood? Right. No, maybe move the chair over there sometimes. Try to switch it up sometimes. We understand there's certain things. Maybe the mu'adhin, maybe the imam. They'll pray in a certain place most of the time for a specific reason. Right? So we mentioned it's okay in certain situations, but you should not pray there every single salah. That's what the ulama have stated. Understood? Now, next hadith. روى النسائي عن أنس عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اعتدلوا في السجود ولا يبسط أحدكم ذراعيه بسط الكلب. We just mentioned this. To have moderation in your sujood. And to not spread his arms like the spreading of a dog. And we just mentioned this. This is similar to the resting of a predatory animal. It's similar to the resting of a predatory animal. Prophet ﷺ said, be moderate in sujood. So we should be putting our arms on the ground like this, raising them up, and we should not be spreading our arms like how a dog will be spreading his arms on the floor, resting his forearms on the floor. We just mentioned this. This is similar to the resting of a predatory animal. Next hadith, on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that the Messenger of Allah, he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, يَعْمِدُ أَحَدُكُمْ فِي الصَّلَاةِ فَيَبْرُكُ كَمَا يَبْرُكُ الْجَمَلِ. He's asking a question. أَيَعْمِدُ أَحَدُكُمْ فِي الصَّلَاةِ. Do one of you come to his salah and he goes down into prostration like how a camel will make something called buruk? When the camel is standing and then it goes into a position of sitting, this is called buruk. So the ulama have differed upon the meaning of this hadith. And there's many hadith like this. Some said that the camel, he goes down with his back legs first. So when we go down to prostration, they said that some of the ulama said that camel goes down with his back legs. So don't go down to prostration with your back legs. Go down with your what? With your hands. Some of the ulama said no. The camel goes down with his hands. So that means we should go down in prostration firstly with our knees. This is a difference of opinion between the ulama. There's a whole other opinion of what this hadith means. The third opinion of what this hadith means, this is why we need the ulama. We can't just try to figure it out by ourselves. The third opinion is the state of how the camel goes down into this buruk. The camel is how much? How much does it weigh? How much is a camel? Huh? More than that. We got some human beings that's 500. At least over 1,000. Camels are very big. Did you just Google it? You said that very comfortably, confidently. Okay, so when it goes down in this, with his hind legs, and it comes down in this buruk, a loud sound happens. You can hear it actually. You can hear it actually come down, make that loud sound, and dust will come up. So the ulama have stated that this means what? This means that you should not go into sujood in the state of coming down and making like a pounding sound. You understand? You should not come from standing to go in a sujood and you coming down and you make like a pounding sound when you come down. You should come to sujood in a light, tranquil way. This is the third meaning of this hadith. Okay? That you should come and not make the buruk of the camel, meaning coming down in a forceful way that is heard. That's like not smooth. Understood? So first opinion of this hadith is the buruk of the jamal is don't go down with your knees. Go down with your hands. Don't go down with your hands. Go down with your knees. Third is that's neither this or that. Don't go down in a forceful, loud manner. Understood? Now. Next hadith. An Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu قال, and this is reported in Ahmad, قال أمرني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بثلاث ونهاني عن ثلاث. The Prophet of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم has commanded me with three things and he has prohibited me from three things. أمرني بركعة الضحى كل يوم. He has commanded me to make 2 rak'ah of duha every day. When is the duha prayer? After sunrise? Can we do it? Can I pray it at 9 o'clock? Do I have to pray it right after the sunrise? Can I wait? Say I'm at work. I want to pray it at 9:30. Can I do that? That's still duha? Still duha. Still duha. Some people are under the opinion or understanding that duha is only what? Right after shuruk. Duha, you could be at work, you could be in your house, you could be anywhere. Just that certain time period, that's when you pray the duha. From 2 to 8 raka'at. He said, the Prophet ﷺ commanded me with 2 raka'at of duha every day. He's commanding who? Abu Hurairah. Right? And in command Abu Hurairah, it has been transmitted to the whole ummah. Yes, the ulama have stated that you should wait like 10 to 12 minutes. But anyway, let's get back to the hadith inshallah, so we don't get off track inshallah. But good question. Barakallahu feek. وَالْوِتْرِ قَبْلَ النَّوْمِ. And the witr prayer before I go to sleep. So he told Abu Hurairah make the witr prayer before he goes to sleep. Maybe he was a new Muslim at the time and wasn't making tahajjud. But what's the better time for witr? The best time for witr prayer? Huh? 8:30? Huh? 8:30 or 9:30? Which one? That's the time it comes in. What's the best time for witr? The last third of the night after you make tahajjud. This is the best time for witr prayer. But why would he command to make the witr prayer before he goes to bed? Huh? In case he died. But what is more common? To not wake up. To not wake up. That's why you found Sahaba that they woke up every night for tahajjud, but they still pray witr. What? After Isha. Before they go to bed. Why? To never miss it. That's how serious witr was to them. Now. Thirdly, he said, وَالصِّيَامِ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ مِنْ كُلِّ شَهْرٍ, and fasting 3 days from every month. May Allah make us of the Sa'imeen. Allahumma ameen. Then, to get back to our topic, he said, وَنَهَانِي عَنْ, and he has prohibited me from نَقْرَةٍ كَنَقْرَةِ الدِّيقِ, the pecking, like the pecking of a rooster. We already mentioned what that is, right? When the other hadith, it said the pecking of what? A crow. Good. This one says the pecking of a rooster, but it's the same meaning. وَإِقْعَاءٍ كَإِقْعَاءِ الْكَلْبِ, and the sitting or the squatting of a dog. Now we don't know what that is, right? We didn't talk about that yet. I need another participant. You want to do it? Come here, Marghani. Come here, Marghani. Quick. Face the crowd. Okay? I want you to spread your back legs out. Move up a little bit so I can see you. Move up. Okay. Sit with your behind between your legs. Your behind between your legs. Put your behind to the floor. Put your behind to the floor. Put your behind to the floor. Sit your behind down. You understand what I said? Put your behind on the floor. Spread your leg. Okay, now put your behind to the floor. On the floor. Oh man. We need somebody else. Come on, Ahmed. Jazakallah khair. This is the sitting. Move a little bit so I can see you. Okay? So, no, you're going to stand. You're sitting. Okay? Okay, now spread your legs a little bit. Yes. Now put your hands to the side. Yes, rest your hands on the side. This is the prohibited sitting that the Prophet ﷺ said is the sitting of or the squatting of a dog. Okay? Turn around now, please. Turn around so let them see. Yes. Where the behind is on the floor. I mean, I don't know who sits like this right now, but this is something that the Prophet ﷺ has prohibited. Okay? Now, Jazakallah khair. وَالْتِفَاتٍ كَالْتِفَاتِ الثَّعْلَبِ, and the looking or the glancing, like the looking or the glancing up. Go ahead. Morgani? Don't worry, Morgani, he's got tough skin, man. This is my neighbor, man. He's good. He got tough skin. Yeah, he's good. Right, Morgani? Huh? Alhamdulillah. That's my neighbor. MashaAllah. May Allah bless him in the family. Good people. Alhamdulillah. وَالْتِفَاتٍ كَالْتِفَاتِ الثَّعْلَبِ, and the looking or glancing like a fox in the salah. Right? You're in the salah, right? Somebody come in, right? You look like this. You ever have that somebody do that to you when they praying? Isn't that uncomfortable? It's like, ain't you praying? Why are you looking at me? You know? Yeah. I used to have this one brother, he always did that, man, in the masjid. All the time. He'd be praying like this. All the time looking. Like, you shouldn't be doing that, man. May Allah bless him. I mean. But this is what the Prophet ﷺ has said. What? The looking or the glancing, left and right of the tha'alab. And the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned that this is the ikhtilas, or the embezzlement. This is the stealing of the shaitan from someone's prayer. He mentioned exactly this looking left, looking right, glancing this way, that way. This is the shaitan stealing from your salah. So where should we be looking in salah? Where should we be looking? At the place of prostration. And when you're in jalsa, you're sitting, you should be looking at your finger. When you make it to shahud, looking at your finger and looking at prostration. Now, you should keep focused there. And wallahi, it's very important. It's very, very important. Where you put your eyes is very important, because what goes into your eyes will enter your heart. What goes into your eyes will enter your heart. So you should keep focused on your place of prostration. Now, Yes. When you go down ruku', probably right down to the floor. Right? Right. Why you go right down to the floor? Because your neck is supposed to be straight. Your neck should be straight. So you should be on a 90-degree angle. So it has to be directly down to the floor. That's another hadith we're going to get into. Yes, you should not put your head up. When you have ruku', you shouldn't put your head up, nor should you put it down. It should be 90-degree angle. So you have no choice but to look straight to the floor. Now, next hadith. This is a small story of something that happened with the Sahaba. Okay? The hadith that's reported in Muslim وأحمد والنسائي عن جابر ابن السمرة قال رضي الله عنه قال كنا نصلي خلف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. We were praying with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم فنسلم بأيدينا, and we were giving salam with our hands. We're going to get into the meaning of that. فقال, Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, ما بال هؤلاء يسلمون بأيديهم. What is wrong with these people who are making salam in salah? When we do taslim, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. The Prophet says, what is wrong with these people who are making salam with their hands in the salah? Like when they make the salam, right? We got someone to the left of me and the right of me. I'm going, assalamu alaikum, assalamu alaikum. This is what the Prophet said the Sahaba did. Prophet said, what is wrong with people who are making salam with their hands? كَأَنَّهَا أَذْنَابُ خَيْلِ شَمْسٍ. Like their hands are the tails of wild horses. So imagine there's a masjid full of people, and at the time of salam, everyone is going, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and they're actually shaking hands. Wouldn't it be a lot of movement and commotion? Imagine a full masjid of people doing that. Prophet ﷺ made the example of them doing this like the tails of wild horses. What a beautiful example. Can you imagine how the tail of a wild horse is going? So after the salah, when it's time for taslim, this is, you see the musallin like this, left and right. He said, أَمَا يَكْفِي أَحَدُهُمْ أَنْ يَضَعَ يَدُهُ عَلَى فَخِذِهِ. It is sufficient for one of them just to place his hands on his thighs. That's sufficient. ثُمَّ يَقُولُ السَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ السَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ. It's sufficient for someone just to put his hands on his thighs and give the salam to the right and give the salam to the left. Now, we may not see someone or people giving the salam like this today, but what we do see, and I've seen it, and it depends on the masjid you go to, not too much here, but definitely, I've seen people in the time of salam, they go like this. Assalamu, let me see how am I doing it right. I don't know, but they'll have their hands, and they'll do a little movement with their hands like this, and I think like this. Has anybody seen that before? You've seen that? I don't want to mention the group of the people I've seen it, because we don't want to single people out. But I've seen people in the time for taslim, they go, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Has anybody seen that? Am I alone? Not alone. You've seen that, right? All the time. Yes. Anybody else? You've seen it, right? So this is prohibited. It's enough for us just to keep our hands on our thighs and give the salam. Now, then the Prophet said, how are we doing on time? We should be finishing right now. Okay. Right now, the Shaykh, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he gets into the different prohibitions. And we already explained the different prohibitions, right? We explained the pecking of the crow. Did we explain it? Okay. Did we explain the resting of the predatory animal? Did we explain the taking of a place in the masjid like a camel? Did we explain the sitting or the squatting of a dog? Did we explain the looking of a fox? And we just explained the moving of the hands like wild horses. Okay. So let's get into the last part of the chapter. And this is, during ruku', how should we keep our head? The Prophet ﷺ, is a hadith mentioned on Abu Sa'id radiallahu anhu. That the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِذَا رَكَ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلَا يُدَبِّحْ تَدْبِيحِ الْحِمَارِ وَلْيُقُمْ صُلْبَهُ. If one of you make ruku', then do not lower his head like the lowering of a donkey. Okay? and keep his back straight. So when we make ruku', we should make it if we can. Allah does not hold anything against anybody that which He cannot do. But when you make sujood, you should be upon a 90-degree angle. And your head should not be going down. It should be with that 90-degree angle, aligned with your back. Now some people, they think it's more righteous to get lower and lower than 90 degrees. They think it's more righteous. I have a better, I'm bowing down better than you because I can get even lower. One time, I need to stop making jokes, man. But I see, let me stop. Let's get serious, inshallah. But anyway, bringing back memories, you know. But anyway, one time this guy, he was in ruku' and he always put his head down, right? And I believe he was advised that you shouldn't. And he was to go, mashallah, he was flexible. And he thought it was more virtuous to, put his head down and his back as low as he can ruku'. And one time we were in the salah and he almost fell down. He almost fell down in the prayer. Because why? Because he was getting so low, he couldn't keep his balance. Right? Anyway, may Allah bless him. He's trying to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah accept his salah. Anyway, the Prophet ﷺ has not commanded us to do that. We're supposed to be on a 90-degree angle. And he said, this is the lowering, and lowering your head, this is the lowering. Do not lower your head like the lowering of a donkey. And keep your back straight. The Shaykh said this hadith is da'if. This is a weak hadith. But the same meaning is in Sahih Muslim. The same meaning is in Sahih Muslim. That the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, إِذَا رَكَعَ لَمْ يُشْخِصْ رَأْسَهُ وَلَمْ يُسَوِّبْهُ. The Prophet ﷺ, if he was to make ruku', he would not put his head up. Come here, one more time, Marghani. You're going to do this for me, inshallah. We're going to finish this. Make ruku' for everybody. 90-degree angle, make ruku'. This way. Let everybody see you. 90-degree angle. Straighten your back. Straighten it. Ahmed, help him. This is a good class you came to. Alhamdulillah. Help him. 90-degree angle. Aywa. Now pick your head up. Keep your back straight, but pick your head up. Keep your head up. Like you're trying to look up. Ahmed. Yeah, keep your head up. We shouldn't do that. That's the one thing the Prophet ﷺ, he would not do that. Yushkis. Walam yushkis. He wouldn't do this when he's in ruku'. Now put your head down. More down. Walam yusawwibhu. And he would not do that either. How would he do it? Go back to the middle. Keep his head aligned with his back. This is the correct ruku', inshallah. Now, jazakallah khair. وعلى كل فإن الإسلام جاء مكرما للمسلم معليا من شأنه بإبعاده عن هذه الهيئات تقريمة له. For surely Islam has came honoring the Muslim, raising him up his affair, and distancing him from these positions of the animals as an honor for him. ولا سيما في هذه الحال الشريفة الفاضلة وهي قيامه بين يدي الله. Especially in the condition, this great condition of salah, when he is standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tabarak wa ta'ala, راقعا in ruku', bowing, sajidan, in sujood, khadi'an, mutadallilan, in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in submission. فعلى المسلم, so it's upon the Muslim, and yarba'a binafsih, to deem himself greater and consider himself greater than to take the characteristics of animals in the salah. ويبتعد بنفسه عن ذلك, and to distance himself from that. والله وحده الموفق والمعين لا شريك له. Allah is the only one who gives success, and He is the only one that can aid, and He has no partners in doing that. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله فيكم. نعم. Yes, it's permissible. Actually, it's from the Sunnah. From the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, so not everything is absolute, There are certain conditions that things can happen, But this is general. This is general. But this is from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now.